Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and I hope everybody's having a good day, and I hope that you guys are staying cool. You know, it feels like about 107 here. I know in Missouri it's pretty damn warm too, so I hope you guys are staying cool, drink lots of electrolytes, and stay out of the sun as much as you can. I got a guest tonight, so we're not going to have to sit here and listen to me talk about the weather, because God knows I don't want to do that. But I do have a weather girl if anybody's ever interested. Piper is now doing the weather for us.
Yeah.
So maybe we can do weather talk sometime. But my guest tonight is Teal Gray. She is also a podcaster. She used to be on the same network that I was on prior to this. And I got to hear her speak a bunch of times, but we could never actually get to talk together because the way the show's worked out, it never happened. So I'd like to introduce you guys to Teal Gray.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So you're an author, a podcaster,
Yeah.
an avid traveler.
Yes. Yeah.
So are you an avid traveler and an astro traveler, or just an avid traveler?
Well, I have done some galactic travel, some astral traveling, and I have a little story that attached to that I had somebody travel back through and come visit me one time. I hear that tonight.
Oh, that'd be perfect. You might as well tell it to get everybody to know who you are.
Lead with it. Well, I never thought too much about it. You know, I've studied at it, written about it and things, but I didn't so much think about how far I would travel. And so we kind of leave a little bit of a residue, like a trail, when we travel intergalactically. You know, people are like, well, when does this happen? How do you know it happens? Well, you don't mostly remember that it happens. Some people definitely have trained themselves intentionally to remember and know and travel and know where they're going. But many times it's just something that happens when you're finally relaxed, you're asleep, and you feel like it's a dream state, whether you remember it or not, but you're actually traveling through other dimensions into the galactic space. And there's different planets, of course, there's different people, there's different entities, there's all sorts of things that we travel through and around when we're out of our body. And one time I went apparently really far out, and when I came back, I felt odd for a couple of days before this encounter happened. And I just thought, gosh, it felt really weird when I came back, awake. It was like and you kind of gasp and you feel that you blasted back into your body somehow. And so I thought that was strange, but I couldn't really remember much about it. So one night I have two houses on acreage here where I live. And so I was in the front house, which I live in, and I used the back house as an office. But I was letting the dogs out. It was around dusk. It's just not quite dark. And but I have this long line of windows in the back. So let the dog out, wasn't thinking about anything spooky, scary, paranormal, or anything else. And just happened to feel like, oh, look back towards the house. And I looked back into what is my bedroom, and there was one of the dog toys. It was kind of a little clown toy, and it was way up at the ceiling, tall ceiling, way up the ceiling, and it was turning very purposefully, but very slowly. Nothing violent, nothing thrown, nothing like that. But it went on for a minute because it went all the way, from entering from the hallway through the room. And then before it got to the end, it did a really big kind of rotation and then sat itself on the bed. And I thought, it didn't feel the same to me, because when you interact with spirits and entities as much as I have my whole life, you learn to discern or feel in your gut, however people want to connect with that, what it is. It didn't feel like a ghost that had ever been human. It didn't feel like a dark angel, didn't feel like a light angel, didn't feel like an elemental fairy, nothing. It didn't feel like anything like that. I had never had that energy exchange before. And so I thought, well, I'm not going to engage with it because I don't know what it is, and I'm just not going to go there. So I didn't engage with it. And after just a couple of minutes, it was gone. For sure, you could feel the difference. It was gone. And I contacted a lady out in California and said, hey, you're really into this intergalactic travel. This happened. I'm not used to feeling the energy of this entity. What was that? Can you connect? Great psychic. And she's like, oh yeah. She's like, the residue's still there. And she said, what it is when you went out on a really far intergalactic adventure, if you will, you came in contact with this entity. Y'all had a great relationship, and interaction. And so when they came into your atmosphere, to your, space, if you will, they just were coming by to say hi because you interacted with them on their space. And so they're coming to yours. And when you didn't engage, they were like, oh, okay. And they just left. There was no problem. And that made me really realize, okay. And that was more an energy that I have now come to find that was more of extraterrestrial beings have a certain vibe to them. And that was more like that, not exactly, but a little more like that. So that was just the first time that I came in contact with that. And so I've now I've added that to my repertoire of things that you kind of gauge what it is you're interacting with.
So you didn't feel scared from?
No, and that was something because I was born with the ability to see things, and it did scare me when I was little. And listen, anybody who says or some of the things, dark angels, demons, or anything like that, and it doesn't scare them, I don't know that you've actually encountered one, because even very seasoned people, priest, whatever, it's never like, oh yeah, blasé about it. They're heavy hitters, if you will. So, but I didn't feel that anxious, fear, anything. So it made sense to me when she explained it was something I had already interacted with, obviously in a good way. So something in my soul, in my, DNA recognized it. And so I didn't have that same, like, what is that? It didn't feel like that. So I felt bad afterwards for not interacting, but I just, I would rather be safe than not. So I'm always cautious with that.
Because I hear stories all the time from people who interact with extraterrestrials, and I've heard both good and bad.
Yeah.
Some say if the ship landed in my yard today, I'd walk out there and get on it and I wouldn't look back. And others go, nope, I'm running with my tail between my legs and I'm getting as far away from that thing as I can.
Yeah, I just am a control freak anyway in life. And so the absolute lack of control, which listen, if they do land and they're coming for you, you don't have any say in it. They're going to take you or not take you. But if I had the choice, I wouldn't go, just because I have a lot I'm doing and enjoying here on this planet. So I want to stay put right here. But there's a lot of people, I know several people who are just like you say, they're like, oh, what a great adventure. But they don't really have too many ties here. So I think that might be the difference.
I'd say a couple of them I think don't have too many ties, but the other ones do, and it makes me question, the extraterrestrial life forms. Are they sure that there's reptilians and bug people and all this other stuff, or are they people that pretty much look like us? Nothing to be scared of, that we were all just different experiments on different planets and different universes.
Yeah.
And we're all pretty much the same.
I think that it's kind of a little bit like all the things paranormal, that, this entity seemed like it was very tall. It had the feeling of the energy was very tall. Not that it was having this over their head playing with it, more like it was in their hands and they were, above the ceiling. So, but so I think it could be a big combination. And I know, just scientifically, atmosphere has a lot to do with it. So if we were, space travelers, we would be taller, thinner, things would be different. So I don't know. It's hard to say, and it could be just a big mix of things, but I don't know. I've eaten so many crow feathers for having a big opinion about something that now I'm just like, I'll keep an open mind and we'll see what happens.
I get it, because I could see where gravity would play a role in size, and darkness and light play different in eyes
Yeah. Yeah.
and skin color.
hmm But I do
So
think, with certainly there is some advanced technology going on there. So I think they could certainly cloak, if they can cloak their ships, they could cloak, I think, and change and show us maybe what we are comfortable with seeing, and I think they probably could change their form to be amongst us. I think it could be a lot of different things.
is it possible that the stuff that we consider ghosts or Bigfoot could just be aliens and we just don't know it?
Yeah, I do think so. I have written, about angels and aliens, all this sort of thing. But there's a book I've got coming out, Angels, Aliens, and Bigfoot is literally what it's called. But it talks angels and different it talks about angels. I mean, because here's the thing, the reason I wrote it is like, there's a lot of times that people will have a paranormal experience, or they think they've seen the lights or a ship perhaps or something, and then at the same time around those same areas there'll be sightings of Bigfoot. And then, of course, we've never had the evidence of a body or anything like that left over from Bigfoot. Now, I mean, if you want to just be scientific on it and you go back, there's great, which there still could be some in the world because they find things that they thought were extinct all the time. So that could be a thing. But, this is just different. I just think that Bigfoot is something different. And I used to not think of them as something that's possibly extraterrestrial. But over the last couple of years, it's made me question that, just because of sightings of UFOs, lights, whatever, and at the same spots within the same time frame, there's sightings of Bigfoot. And also, people will say, I think they thought that they saw something big or angelic like. And so that's like, that's really interesting. Through history, the times that spaceships were seen, even in Renaissance paintings and things like that, at certain points in time that were very critical through the timeline of the world, they seem to show up. And who's to say that it's not? I mean, Bigfoot could be that. It could very well be the look of one of the extraterrestrials, and that's why you see them in our dimension, and then people are like, gosh, it disappeared. There was nowhere it could go, even in the forest or in the field or whatever. There's certain times that they shouldn't have been able to get away, or cameras should have picked them up, or at some point in history with so many searches, you would think you would find some evidence of them just living, So I think it's something to think about.
Back in 1972, okay, 7 years old. And then everybody, if you're doing the math, I'm 29. Just keep that in mind.
Sure.
But back when I was 7 years old, and they had come out with, there was something on the news, it made World News Tonight or something like that, about the Bigfoot video. And it was just a little story. And I looked over at my mom and my dad, and I said, Bigfoot is an alien.
And you just,
And
you had that
yeah,
in your spirit, your knowledge. Yeah.
so ever since I was 7, I've been telling people that. And up until a few years ago, people would laugh at me. And now it's becoming more widely accepted
Yeah.
that that's possibly it. And I mean, who's to say that 7-year-olds just don't have the knowledge? Maybe I'm an old soul and I knew something.
Yeah.
I know I'm probably not a star seed or anything like that. And and at the time, Star Wars wasn't out, not
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have seen a Wookiee to
No.
guess.
And you wouldn't have
So
had the internet or cell phones or anything like that. So
nope,
yeah,
just
that's
black and white TV.
right. No, I
So
think children, if you think about the shows, and I've interviewed some of the families, like the Ghost Inside My Child, different things where they have memories of past lives and stuff. It's really fascinating. And I think if people can sort of have an open mind, irregardless of what your religious beliefs are, and just go with some of the facts and the stories, that the knowledge that these children have of things that they couldn't know, that's not readily even able to research or look up quickly or whatever, and you talk to them, and how you've interviewed a bunch of people just like I have, there's this genuine sense of when somebody's just telling the truth. This is what they think. And their parents this is never a great scenario, because their parents are worried because they're either having nightmares or reliving how they passed in their past life or something. So it's not something that you would say, oh, these just for fame or recognition. That's not been my experience at all interviewing them. But it's certain things that children say that they know, just like you did. They just know. They just have this knowledge in them, and you can't kind of overlook that.
no, and you think about it, and yeah, it is scary for a parent.
Yeah.
But you think back into the 70s, and it was different. You couldn't speak up about anything that you believed like this. I mean,
Yeah.
they were still getting, if you even whispered the word Russia, you were a communist, and so you had all this stuff going on that you couldn't talk about.
No.
But it wasn't secret, but you didn't talk about it.
You had to be careful. They would get the torches out still, right?
Yeah. And my mom had told me that, like around 1975, she finally said, hey, don't talk about this stuff. But, it just makes you wonder what truly is a ghost. Is it, is it something from this dimension? Or is it just something visiting this dimension? And is it really the person that we lost and we loved? Or is it something that wants to look like them so that they can feel that same love?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question and a complicated one. And it has multiple answers, because it could be a lot of things. Like, it could be someone who has passed away that was once human and walked the earth, and they passed away. They could be a visiting spirit. They could be residual energy that you're seeing them just going about what they always did, say, in their favorite location, or visiting a person. It could be something where you have an entity, many times lower level, darker entities, are pretending to be somebody or something childlike, so you'll let your guard down, and they can sort of befriend you and work their way into you, and then things can go quite south there. But it also can be, I think, if you take out just humans that have passed and residual energies, when it's intelligent, interactive, a lot of times I think it could very well be something that's just in another dimension, that's a little faster or slower than ours. And every once in a while, there's a glitch, if you will, in the matrix, as they say. And, you're able to see it. Either you're finally open enough, or there's something to where they're able to come in and it be seen and you're seen. And generally, when those interactions happen, both are surprised. The person is like, whoa. And so is the other, ghost entity or whatever it is. They're always like, whoa, what is going on? So both people are surprised. So I think in those surprise situations, I really think that is what you're talking about, like interdimensional overlap or interaction, if you will, that happens sometimes for a moment and sometimes never again. But I think if you look in history, there are times that those spaces have interacted multiple times, and then some people say, I think they put their religious beliefs into it, and they just can't let it be that it was another entity. It has to be, well, it was a good angel, or it was a bad angel, or it was this or that. Like they have to give it the cloak of something bigger. It can't just be maybe what it was, just one human interacting with another entity and just the dimensions mixed, So yeah. I think you just have to I think you're going to get further if you just suspend any preconceived notions about things and just go with the facts, and then look and see, okay, did it have attributes of this or this or this? And work with that. But I think all of it can actually be true at the same time.
But yeah, that's one of those things. I mean, when you're talking about that situation where this goes over this and they interact, it made me think of the movie The Others.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful example of it, because they're each very much invested in their own realities, and they're playing out at the same time. But I just thought, I love that movie so much because I thought for the first time they really showed how each side felt and each side's interactions, whether that was fear or awe. I had a spirit one time show me what it was like for them. They felt like they were stuck in a loop, and they would interact sometimes with the living people that are in this house. My house, the front house, is haunted with different spirits than the back house. It's been written about a lot. Mark Foltz has stayed here a lot of friends. And there's, elemental in the back on the property. So there's a lot of different spirits here. Some in the front, they don't ever mix. The back house spirits don't come here. It's a weird thing. But this is one from the front house. And they just very much wanted to, and I kept thinking, what is going on? Was it the lady, because there's been 2 women who have died in this house since it was built, both actually in the same room at the back wing of the house. And I thought, I wonder if it's one of them. And it wasn't. This was somebody else, and that had died, and that lived here and died here, but came back here. They didn't actually die in the house, but they lived in the house. But anyway, and she said she had scared several people away back before I purchased it, because they would look in the windows, because it's good enough sized property that they were curious and just, what's going on? Let's look around. And she would get scared thinking that they were trying to break in. Well, they actually were, but they weren't. She was dead. They're living now, but she would run to the window and say, go away, whatever. But they would see her and they would run. And so she sort of protected the house in that way, and still does. Like, there's a very protective vibe with her. And I'm telling you, I wouldn't believe it if somebody told me. I'd be like, okay, that's nice. I'm sure you have a timer somewhere that clicked off. But she has even, I forgot one time and left cookies baking and forgot about it, went and saw a movie, came back, and there's no way this could happen, but the oven, all the settings, everything, it was still on, but the cookies were not burned. They were perfect, as if they weren't left all that time. And I don't know how she suspended it, or if she, turned it off, left it on, whatever, but it's an old style turning one. It's not something like buttons. It's not something computerized. So I couldn't explain it, but there was a whole, there was like 5 or 6 people with me that knew I left it baking, and we thought, going to be fire trucks when we get home. and it wasn't, and actually they were perfect, still soft, and that's, crazy. There's been other times that she's been protective of the house, and people, all around us have had issues through the years with break-ins and stuff, and we never have. And I think it's probably because she scares them away.
Well, that sometimes a ghost is better than a pit bull.
Maybe so. Well, in Germans, there's a German folklore about, the house spirit, like the house. They guard house guardians, they guard the house. And so I think she's a little bit of that for me.
Well, we can all hope that that's the kind of spirits that we get, ones that treat us well and take care of crap when we're not there.
Right. Well, somebody who was here the first day when I moved in this house, I came in the front house, and I always, whether I'm investigating or leading an investigation, anything, I always walk in and announce, "Hello, my name's Teal, not here to bother you or anything. I'm just and I state whatever my purpose is." And so the first day I moved in, I told my family, "Wait, I'm going to go in first and just, hello, I'm here, I bought the house and I'm going to be taking care of the property." Well, apparently they weren't for it, because I put a big bowl of wooden fruit on the refrigerator and got about 3 steps down the hallway towards my bedroom when all the bowl and the fruit was very forcefully thrown. Just went all around, didn't hit me, which I don't even know how it didn't, but it went all around me, over my head, and smashed, everywhere. And it was heavy wood, so it didn't break, but it put a dent or two in the walls because it was so violently thrown. And I I stayed calm, because that's what you need to do. And so I was like, nope. I turned right around. It's like, no. This is not going to happen. I understand if you think this is, or maybe it was your house, but I'm here now. I'm living in it. And, we can get along peacefully, or I can banish you, and I'm not too sure where you're going to go. So let's try to work this out. And you would, things would happen. You'd hear things, or doors open, close, whatever. But it has worked out through the years. There was no more of that violent stuff. But when I bought the house, I thought it was so unusual. It reminded me of, what was that Bruce Willis movie where
Sixth Sense?
Sixth Sense, yeah, where they ended up putting a latch on that door that he kept opening, because when I bought the place, I thought, what is going on here? This whole front house, not in the back house, because the front house is a 4-3 and the back house is a 2-1. But in the front house, they had latches on every single door. On the laundry room doors that opened, they had it on everything that could open. They had a latch on it. And I thought, that is the weirdest thing ever, So I took all the latches off, of course, redid everything. And now, after all these years, I've been here 26 years, there's latches on everything, because that's the only way you're going to know you're going to keep the doors open, shut, whatever, is you're going to keep the latches on them. So, that was kind of a funny thing that came back to have me eat a little crow, because I was like talking about these people who used to own the house must have just been nuts. Like, who would do that? And now I'm the nut with latches on every door.
Well, you answered one of the questions I was going to ask, was how long ago did you buy the house?
Yeah.
So basically, how long have you been dealing with this? And 26 years is a long time.
It's a long time. Yeah. I grew up in haunted houses, not out of preference. I still joke now, because I'm going to sell this property, and I'm looking for another property, and I'm like, maybe this time I'll get a house that's just not haunted at all. And my friends all laugh, especially Mark. He's like, that's hilarious. He's like, that's not going to happen. And I was like, I think it happens for people. And he's like, maybe so, but I don't think it's going to happen for you.
For people who see spirits, it doesn't. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, every house I've lived in since I was 10 years old has had something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this house and the last house we had were brand new.
Oh yeah.
And still got spirits, and it's because you're a lighthouse. They're drawn to you, and they come in because you're there. Sometimes it has nothing to do with the property at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
to do
and it's yeah, we have a light that's shining, and so they see that and think, oh, okay. They just, and I understand, they want to communicate. Maybe they have unfinished business and they think you can help them. Who can say?
So what you do in that case, and they're bothering you, just say, go see Mark and Milton.
Right, off you go.
He's down the street. Go find him.
Go see him. I
The
tell you,
lights are on. He's waiting for you.
he's had so many experiences here. He's been like, it's the craziest place he said he's ever seen, because it doesn't matter. You don't need a dark, stormy night. It can be morning. It can be a beautiful sunny afternoon. It's just very different stuff happening.
So we met him, and I had met him online years ago when he still lived in Chattanooga.
Yeah.
And I never thought that I'd meet him. Okay. To be honest, I didn't. And then I happened to see something on Facebook, and it said that he was working at a shop in Pensacola.
Yeah.
And well, apparently 2 weeks later, he wasn't.
Yeah. Well, he opened his own shop. So,
right.
Yeah. But he's been in the place for about 2-3 years, and then he opened his own shop now. So
and so I happened to meet him as he opened that shop. Because we moved here last June, and I think he opened that shop in July or August.
Yeah, just really close, right around that time.
And so I was all excited to meet him, and mostly because of the fact that he is a character.
He has so much knowledge, though, and such great gifts. He's an amazing psychic medium, and automatic writing, and he can teleport himself in such a way that he can tell you when he's reading for you or anything like that. He can tell you, oh, okay, so you're sitting in a room with green drapes and a purple bedspread, or I like your puppy. You know what I mean? He's that good.
Yeah, I only know one other person that can do that, and that's Lori Johnson.
Okay.
And the only reason I can say that is she called me one night. I asked her to be on my show, and it was late at night. I had just gotten out of the bathtub, and I was not fully dressed. Okay. But she called me on the phone. So it didn't matter what I was wearing, but she happened to tell me what I was wearing and where I was sitting at. I was sitting at the top of my stairs in my house at the time. Yeah. In a towel. Okay.
Right.
So the odds of somebody telling you that at 10:30 at night is not normal.
No. Yeah, it's a great gift. It really is. And he has helped people find relatives that they thought might be dead and actually weren't. He located the person and then psychically told them, hey, you have to contact your mother. You have to. And he kept going on and on saying it to this person, and they contacted their mother after months and months. And but he also has helped locate bodies, So, but yeah,
so he has that Henry VIII I am attitude with with people, huh?
Yes, definitely.
And for those of you who don't know, that's from Ghost.
Right. Yeah. So he's great, and he does phone readings and everything. So hey, anybody on Facebook, contact Mark Fulton. He's actually having a special right now. So he does amazing phone readings. So give him a call. And
if you need his information, let me know. Put it in the chat, and I will make sure that you get that information.
I passed it on to several people just yesterday. He's happy for that. He's not. That's no problem at all.
Like I said, he's a good guy. We had a lot of fun with him. We plan on hanging out with him. We're planning on investigating with him sometime. So that's going to be interesting.
It'd be great. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of information there for sure.
But yeah, his stories are just amazing, though.
Oh yeah, he's got so many.
Yeah, but he said some really nice things about you.
Oh,
that's part of the reason why I wanted you on here. So, how many books have you written?
9 now. I've written a bunch. That started out with Shades of Angels, and has gone on through, Spirited Tales and Scared Senseless. Gosh, let's see. I also wrote a book for Kathy and Sonny Estes, who own Haunted Hill House in Mineral Wells, one of the most haunted houses in America. Really, truly very haunted. And I wrote Haunted Hill House, Darkness Resides in Texas for them. And then I wrote Haunted Denton, and Haunted Weatherford is just about to come out. The last two I wrote for the Arcadia Press. And so, so I'm traditionally and self-published, a little bit of a mix.
Funny that you should say Denton. We looked at houses in Denton, Denison, Sherman, and Paradise.
Well, there you go. Yeah, Denton's great. It's very haunted. There's a lot of tales, So, and Haunted Weatherford, I tell you, Weatherford is really interesting. The History Press wanted to follow up Haunted Denton with Haunted Weatherford. And I said, oh, okay, I was like, do you want to do something about like a mix of different towns together? And they're like, no. And I was like, okay. So as I checked it out, I was so surprised just how haunted it was. And there's so many layers to it. But once you got past the shell of like, I don't know if we want to talk about this, and you got to where people were comfortable with it and they knew who I was, and they're like, oh, okay, you're not going to write anything crazy, because I like to talk about the history of a place and the hauntings, but it's never anything that's not true. You know what I mean? Like I don't sensationalize it or make it something crazy. So I could have written 2 books about it. It was just fascinating. So I'm excited. That's going to come out at the end of September. And then before then, I've got actually a children's book coming out in September before Halloween, and it's called Shoe Cat and Pumpkin Pie. And so they go on a little adventure through Halloween. But I have, oh gosh, I've got a number of books coming out. I have Spirited Christmas book coming out talking about the history of Christmas and spirits, and it really was a thing that happened during Christmas. Was not October Halloween. It changed over time because it was an uncomfortable situation for people, but it was just like Dickens' A Christmas Carol, right? Because Christmas was when the veils were thin, and that's when you had all the Christmas tales from all the different countries. And so that's going to come out. But there's several books coming out other than the traditionally published. I have some that I'm putting out myself.
Yeah, I've told people all the time, they'll ask me, when do I think is more haunted, Halloween, or what holiday do I think is most haunted? And I said Christmas.
Yeah.
And they look at me like I was nuts, and I'd explain that, for a lot of people, Christmas is highly emotional.
Yeah.
Whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. It's highly emotional, and family gets together or not, depending upon that person's life.
Yeah.
But the family members of you want to see you at Christmas time because that's what they're used to.
Right.
I have more encounters in probably December than I do any other time.
Exactly right. And it's just really, that is when I know it's, there's several occasions when the veil is thin, but that is as you say, it's so emotionally charged, and that can break through something whether veil's thin or not. And they want to be remembered, and they want to be part of those celebrations. They miss everybody. Even if they're happy, even if they're doing great things on the other side and they're happy, that they still have the emotion and of who they were and who you were to them, and they just love you and they celebrate you. And so I think it's a happy time for them, as you say, to be part of everything. Also, I've had a lot of people that I read for during that time, and the spirits that had passed want to say, I'm sorry. I didn't give you what you needed when I was there. I didn't know how. I just didn't know how. And now I understand what I should have been and what I should have done. And so sometimes they come bearing flowers to just say, I'm sorry. But they are very heavily coming through in December.
Yeah, I think that there's an investment there that people need to pay attention to, of their time. They need just to listen a little bit closer that time of year. You know, the Christmas ornament falling off the tree isn't the cat sometimes. It's sometimes that the spirit got a little bit closer. It was their Christmas ball, or
Yeah,
their,
they want you to go, hey, it's me. They'll give you clues. And I think a lot of times people, especially then, seem to tell me, I feel like so and so is shopping with me, or especially when I'm getting something for this person, or maybe, whether it's um, maybe a grandchild they didn't get to meet, or, you know, some situation where they really want to be part of something. Kind of a lot of weddings happen during the holidays, and people really feel like they have loved ones that have passed on that are there. And I think it's really nice. It's become a tradition. More and more people put flowers with the names of loved ones that have passed there at the altar as they're getting married and stuff. And then they get into the, I think that's wonderful. So then that brings up conversation starters of, oh, you know what? Yes, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about Uncle Tony in 20 years. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been that long. Or, gosh, Aunt Tilly just passed. So, sometimes it can be even the saddest moments when you're remembered and you talk through it. There's maybe tears, but there's also some healing in that. So I think,
and usually tons of laughter.
the stories. Yeah, you remember, like, do you remember when they did this or this happened? And they love that, even though they can't really show it. Other than, as you said, maybe moving their ornament or something, they try to come through to you, especially in your dreams and states when you're open. Sometimes people say, "Gosh, I had the most realistic interaction with somebody who's passed," and I believe them.
The thing is when I have those types of dreams, I'm finding out that I'm waking up more tired than when I went to bed.
Well, yeah,
To be honest.
a lot of energy out of you. And also, it takes in, if you think about it, the reason it kind of starts to have that ever was the connotation of a dark and stormy night. Well, they need energy, and the electricity in the air when it's lightning and the rain, it's all conductive to this sort of thing. But if it's not that, it takes a lot of energy. So my point in saying that was, when you're sleeping, you wake up tired because you've had to expend a lot of energy too to be on that same frequency with them.
Yeah, I told my husband, I said, there's been nights where I've dreamt that I was working all night. And I said, I just want to go back to sleep.
Exactly.
So I'm finding out on those nights when I get a lot of REM sleep that I'm actually more tired when I wake up in the morning.
Right. Because you're in the deep sleep, but you're interacting with all your pals.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is horrible. But,
Yeah.
And I wish I could remember them more. Is there a way that we can train ourselves to remember more?
There is. You can set the intention for anything, right? Even if you're having a bad day, you can stop and go, nope, resetting the energy, not doing this. And you can reset yourself. It takes practice, takes intention, but it does work because we're all energy. So all we're doing is realigning the energy. That's all we're doing. And you're having energetic exchanges. And so you can say to yourself, okay, I want to remember these interactions. I want to remember. And sometimes you have to be a little specific, because sometimes they're not meant for you to remember them, because they don't want to give too much away, because you have a life journey to go on. And so it might affect how you would move forward, if you're supposed to learn a lesson or this or that. But you can say and ask, depending on your religious beliefs, you know, I believe in God, but in good angels and Jesus, all that. But so you could say to whatever higher power you're aligned with, hey, help me to remember my dreams, and in any way, something about them that could help me. Because I know that you, the Holy Spirit, good angels, all these, you know, ancestors, everybody is trying to give me knowledge and information, and I want to remember it. I want to know. And I would tell you to keep a notebook and several pens and pencils, because you never know when, every time you grab one and it's important, it's not going to work. And you'll think, oh my gosh, can't tell you. I've woken up so many times and been like, I would never forget this. That's the best idea. That's the best. It's life changing. In 5 minutes, you won't remember what it was. So write it down. If nothing else, you know, make a little in your phone, just make a little note, send it to yourself, a little message, anything to remember it. And details, you know, you can ask, hey, I really want to remember more details. And you will start to remember dates, names, you know, yes or no kind of guidance of like, hey, I need guidance towards this new job. I need guidance to what to do at work. There's this issue, or in a relationship, or anything else. I've asked for guidance and for books, or something that I was like, should I do this or should I do that? And I'm telling you, you know, keep at it, keep being open, keep asking, and you will get in more and more alignment in such a way that it's almost like a train on the tracks. You'll get locked in with that energy, and everything goes better. Your days go better, your nights go better, you remember in your dreams, you get into this locked in sort of mode. And then when you go off track, you really know it, because you're like, wow, I have not been focused. I haven't been asking. I haven't been present, and I'm off track, or things are not going great. And then you align yourself back to that, and things get better. Things get smoother.
So guys, take that note if you're really wanting to have more interaction with the spirits in your life.
And you need to be very specific. Let me remind you of this. And that's the whole reason I wrote Shades of Angels, is because I was traveling all over and people were saying, oh, you know, I opened myself up to the angels, but woo, that was a bag of tricks. And I was like, I realized finally, you know, like, I don't know, third trip around or something, I was like, oh, they are just thinking that the word angel means good. So when they're opening themselves up, they don't realize they need to ask for the good angels, specifically good angels. Because otherwise, you're saying to both sides, and there's as many dark as there are light. So you're saying, hey, come on, right? So you've got to be very specific and say good angels, only the good angels, only good things, only higher good powers, only light help me, only light come into me, only light be near me, only the, you know, be very specific. And when you want angelic guidance, you have to be very specific and say, good angels, please do help me know this, or how to fix this, or what steps to take, because we have free will. So angels could want to help you as much as you can imagine, but you have to have free will. So you have to say to them, good angels, please do come into my life and help me in every way possible. Bring every blessing you can, large and small, you know, all the good knowledge. And that's where you're really going to get tuned in. But be specific, or else you're going to get a bag of tricks.
Yeah, I think a lot of discernment has to go along with what you're wanting. You know,
and
I'd
then
say one of the things,
always, what do you really want? Not what you think you deserve, not what you think you can have. What do you really want? And feel it. Feel it as if you've already got it. I know this is very much a thing about The Secret kind of thing, right? Like just manifestation. But the truth is, manifestation has been going on forever before that. And it's even biblical. People who think, oh, you know, I don't know, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian too. I'm a doubly ordained minister. So, you know, and people, oh no, as a Christian, I wouldn't do it. That's all magic. And I tell them, hey, do you ever celebrate your birthday? Well, of course. Do you blow out a candle? Yeah, Teal. Well, you do candle magic then at least once a year. And they're so upset. But the truth is, that's candle magic. You're making a wish, an intention, lighting a candle, putting it into that. Everybody's singing and chanting to you, right? To help you celebrate this manifestation. And you're blowing out the candle as a, and so it is. And so, yeah, they're doing candle magic once a year, at least, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's a big wake up call for them too. But
a lot of people, I don't think, realize that most forms of prayer are praying for what you want.
exactly. Yeah.
Or what you think you need. You know, there's
Thank you.
The Garth Brooks song,
Yeah.
unanswered prayers.
Unanswered
You're
prayers.
praying,
Gosh. Yeah.
you may not get the answer that you were hoping for, but you
But
got
get what
an
you need.
answer.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll get what you need. And a lot of times looking back, you'll be like, whoo, dodged a bullet on that one. Thank you for knowing what's better for me than me. But we're human. We want what the heart wants, what the physical, what the flesh wants. So we're not always tuned into that higher power. And I do understand, because people sometimes like, gosh, Teal, some of this stuff's a lot of work. It is, because if it was, and it is, and it's something you have to think about, be conscious about, you have to practice it, you have to, it is a lot, but it's worth the effort, because if it was easy, like, there wouldn't be a lot of the problems in the world, right? And you see people really turn their lives around and their circumstances when they start to live intentionally and believe higher, because the higher you lift your energy, then all those good things vibrate on a certain level. And if you're depressed and unbelieving and just feeling unworthy and all of that low level energy, all you're going to get is more low level things happening, forgetting the car keys, running out of gas, tripping on your way to work. It's just going to be one drama after another. You have to believe what you can't see. You have to lift yourself up to something that you feel is impossible at the moment. But the more you do it and get out of the mud, out of the muck that you can't see you're in, and raise yourself up, it starts to clear out. You start to get that little bit of air between where you were stuck and where you're going. And that's just, wind beneath your wings stuff. It works.
So what I hear from you, not just angels, but if I sit there with the intention saying, I'd like to talk to my mother, what would my mom do in this situation?
Right.
And focus on just my mother and what she would say.
Yeah.
That's most likely the person I'm going to hear from.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. Most of the time, it really is the person that we're trying to reach, that we do reach. And you will feel that. You will feel that. It is rare that you're going to have an interloper or some lower energy trying to impersonate that. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It does happen, but it is very rare. It is mostly true connections that you make with people that have crossed over, that you love, and loved ones. And I'm telling you, you will learn the discernment of feeling it. The more you practice it, and the more, let's say, your mother visits you, you know what it was like to be with them. You know their energy. And sometimes you'll even smell the smell of them, the perfume, or just feel something that was important to them, whether it was a hummingbird or butterflies or anything. Those things will appear to you more. Connections, little connections you had in life will continue even after they've crossed over.
I wanted to say that just so that people would understand that you're not just talking angels. You're talking.
No, but I just want them to not call in all angels. I want them to be specific and get good ones. You have to be specific. Oh, no. You can call in your
very
angels.
specific.
You can contact animal energies, totems. You can connect with anything. I just want people to be careful with angels, because they're very powerful, even in all the different levels they're in. And so you want to be specific with that. But oh my goodness, yes. Contact your pets that you loved are still in contact with you, and ancestors you never met and that you're parents and grandparents never met, going way back, are concerned with you and want to lift you up and give you messages. I mean, even science, who wants to discount pretty much everything, has finally come across, a couple of years back and said, well, we won't go and say that we believe in past lives, remembering. However, in your DNA, we do know and can confirm that you have memories of those in your bloodline, literally, as they would say, like, it's in the blood. It is. You have memories, and it's something like a fight or flight DNA trying to keep you safe, trying to guide you. It's that gut feeling some people talk about. Trust your gut, because sometimes that's where you're going to have the most feeling and emotion. If something's good or if something's bad, it'll really try to tell you, So, oh gosh, no. Yeah, the angels are just one of many components and entities and animals and ancestors that you can contact.
Well, that explains Ron. He's got an inner pyromaniac that we got to deal with over 4th of July.
Oh, there you go.
He loves to blow shit up.
There you go.
Yeah.
That may have.
So I don't know which side of the family that came from, his mom's or his dad's.
You know what's interesting when it's things like that? When I was young, I had a thing about ships, and I never had anyone show me ships. It was not anything like TV shows, like, oh, I grew up watching ship shows. No, it wasn't any of that. But I came to realize, as I did, like, going through my ancestry, I had so many ship captains and even pirates in my line, right? And so I think it is a little bit of that in the blood. And so it would be interesting if he went back and looked and see, were there a lot of military guys? Maybe they were cannon men, or who knows? There could have been a lot of different things that he has that in him.
I believe there was a lot of military men, because he also has this thing about Civil War battle sites.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So the fire and the, all that could be.
And World War II.
Yeah.
All the big loud booms.
Right.
Yeah, too bad he can't find M80s.
Oh, there you go.
Good for me.
Yeah.
Bad for him.
Bad for him. He's like, one day, there's something to keep hunting for. One day.
They're illegal. So.
Yeah. Well,
maybe not everywhere, but here they are.
Not everywhere they're not.
So,
but here, yeah, he's going to have to travel a bit.
So you also say on your profile that you're a sacred site traveler. What does that mean?
So I've given talks through the years, and I'm writing a bigger book about it called Sacred Derkos, which is just sacred spelled backwards, right? And it's about what makes a place sacred, what makes it good, what makes it healing, what makes it have the emotion of a pilgrimage that people run to, versus, or Derkos is just a reference term for me, and explaining it as something that you want to run from, that has inherently had multiple evil things happen in mass sometimes, and just even visiting sometimes can relay a negative experience for people and animals, So what is that? I mean, as we talked about, we're made up of energy. The world has ley lines, these energetic lines that go around the world in different spots and make them charged in a certain way. And some are very holy from long ago, and not holy in a religious way. I would say sacred. And I say that because whether it was a druid or, any religious or non-religious person, they have had healings there. They have had experiences or seen things that were signs and wonders, so to speak, versus places that people try to avoid, or that something tragic happens and you think, gosh, that was awful. Woo, wonder, and then you find out, oh, on that same spot, this happened. Oh, and then you go back a little more, this happened. Wow, and that happened. And it seems to be not so much interchangeable. I'm not saying there's not a middle ground, because there's always middle ground. There's middle earth. There's middle everything, right? You walk right down the. I kind of walk right down the middle of good and evil, and I've interacted with both. But it's there's just those places, and so I visit them all. But it's really just interesting to me to visit these places that are especially pilgrimage, because it's, people seem to be very divided at times, and negative with each other and hateful with each other. And I think to myself, gosh, if they only could kind of have all of these belief systems from all the different things, and non-religious, and lay them on top of each other with kind of a clear form where you could see through, that the stories of their histories, and stories and tales, and miracles from all these religions are the same. The names are different, and of course, obviously, timelines are different. Some of the timelines are pretty close, and the very same people in another part of the world are telling the story that we told about Christ, or this, are going back. So it's just interesting to me to travel these places and feel that energy, and then go to some of the other places and feel that energy. It's very different. It's very different.
A lot of what you're talking about is covered was covered back when I was going to college, when I was 29. It was Joseph Campbell, and how he goes into all of these different religions and the hero.
Yeah.
And even can put this to Star Wars, or, other trilogies, and
Yeah.
just your average everyday movie, even that has a hero and not an anti-hero or villain.
Right.
You've got all this stuff.
The story perfectly. I mean, I've given talks on, superhero, superhero, because some Christians are like, well, this is what, I don't care. Take the verbiage and make it whatever you want. But superheroes are amazing ways to show, overcoming things, light and dark. And I think it's an amazing way. And I actually studied Campbell too. So, I mean, I think it's a great way to interact with things.
I think that the more you go through this, you're going to find more ways that what your stories are going to interact with the Joseph Campbell writings.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the stuff that he wrote just seems to be fitting in with what you're saying.
Yeah, it does. And other people, and it's just, because it is something, the more you look at this as a whole, and step back from it, and you have no dog in the fight, right? You can really see, gosh, I don't know why they're arguing, because it layers the exact same way. It's just different belief systems, different customs, different parts,
different words. That's
different verbiage, but it's the same story. It's the same story.
It's amazing when you look at it from that standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, your haunted town books.
Mm-hmm.
How many of the stories in one town kind of mirror the stories in another town?
Oh, yeah.
How many parks are haunted with love lost stories?
Exactly. And I don't think you could throw a rock at any lake and not have a haunted lady of the lake in every state, right? Everybody's got the haunted lady of the lake, or the goat man in the woods, that kind of thing. There's always something that's similar.
Yeah. That's funny. Maryland has a goat man. Texas has a goat man.
Yeah.
And are they the same? Maybe he's traveling. Maybe he got on a train.
Maybe he's traveling, and maybe it's a sort of a form of an entity. And Mark and I have both talked about this, and it's probably too big a subject. I probably shouldn't bring it up, but there's also created entities, and sometimes people purposely create an entity, an energy, to do their work. It's called a fetch. But also sometimes people, without thinking, bring in this energy to something, and they're calling in things that they have no idea what they're calling in or business doing. And then sometimes it works. And then everything hits the fan, they get terrified and run. But they've opened this portal, they've created this entity and this energy, and it's, dark, and it's hungry, and it's going to feed. And these things can take on the form of a lot of things. They can be something, that we've never seen, or they can take a form that relates more to what they've been conjured to be. And a lot of times when you look at certain attributes that people are trying to do, it's kind of a goat man thing. It's a weird thing. But so there's just so many things in this world that we can't explain or understand. And some of it is our own doing. It's sort of like people who use Ouija boards. Don't know what they're doing. Well, the person who opens it needs to close it. And mostly they get afraid and they throw it under the bed or in a closet, as you see in 1,000 movies. Well, that's still open. It's still a portal. Spirits are still coming through it. And it's just some things you need to be very educated with, and people aren't, but they open them up and play with them anyway.
So is a fetch similar to a tulpa?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Just so we can keep our terminology.
Right. Yeah. It is. It's very much so. Yeah. It's created. It's doing a job.
There needs to be a paranormal dictionary.
Right. we should co-write a dictionary.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, trying to get the same word for the same thing across the board. Webster's does it. Why can't Teal and Denise do it?
Well, we could. We just have to go through all the languages, and each thing would have a term, and then all the different countries and their term for it. But it could be done. It could be done.
I mean, I know that there's some books that cover some of that.
Yeah.
Like the angel book from Rosemary Ellen Guiley. Mm-hmm. And her demon book, and then Michelle's book on the same thing. They go through different things, but it's funny how you can put them together and go, if all these things were together in one book, it'd be great. But of course, this book could be this thick, like Ghost by what's his name? I got a book that's this thick, and a friend gave it to me, and of course, it's now a doorstop, but all those stories they're great, but how valid are they after this many years? Are those places still haunted?
Oh, I bet they are. I bet it's very valid. And because terminology, some of these terms, certainly anything to do with angels, light or dark, they're ancient. They come from long, long ago. Nobody's making this stuff up. Or if they are, shame on them.
Well,
but overall,
I do think some people might be making up demon names.
Well, they might be, and they might be, helping to conjure
create
some
new ones.
They could create new ones, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, there's plenty open for business,
Yeah, I mean, there's always, you look at this stuff and you go, this person must have made a deal with the devil to get all the stuff that they have.
Yeah,
and then you look at it and you go, well, Ozzy didn't, because he should have been dead I don't know how many times.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He's still kicking. But I mean, it's just ancient texts, and they go through and grab up whatever has been written, decades before them. And yeah, that's okay.
So Tom McNicholas asks, do you believe when writing stories you can manifest entities?
I do. And I have talked to other writers and different people and different, I don't know, different backgrounds, let's say, different work that they do. And they too believe that sometimes when you're writing, something comes to life. And by the same token, sometimes when you're doing historic, research or writing, I believe, and other people believe, that they have been assisted or visited by those entities and helping them to find things they would have never found, or where there was a dead end, they find this some relic or some bit of information that now opens up this whole new bit of history that then can be verified. So they feel like, wow, how else would I have had that except a nudge from that person from history?
It reminds me of an episode of Ghosts.
Yeah.
I think that, okay, I know it's a sitcom, but it's very close to how I see seeing spirits.
Gotcha.
And I don't know if everybody thinks that, but it's very similar to the interactions that I have, not to the point to where I'm telling sitting there telling my husband, hey, they said they want to play Dungeons and Dragons with you, and this is the move that they want to make. No, it's not like that.
Right. But in the way you see them, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's weird to me still to this day. I mean, I've been seeing spirits since I was 4 years old, and I still think it's weird that I see spirits.
I don't think it's anything you ever really get used to. I mean, I don't think it's anything that you ever like, oh yeah. I mean, unless you've just given up and whatever. I think it's always sometimes a surprise, because it's changing. It evolves as you grow and evolve, or as you shut down. Depends.
So do you yourself do mediumship readings at all?
I do. But they do take a lot out of you. I used to do them a lot, and I do them rarely. Mark is a full, like, come on in, take a seat inside, get comfortable in my body kind of a thing. And he just lets them speak through him. I am not that too big a control freak. I am very much arm's length. You stay there. I see them, and then they telepathically kind of tell me. Sometimes I hear them auditory, but mostly they're just telling me what's what. And I tell the people, and of course it's the same thing. I get the same information, if you will, like who it is, their name, what a memory, something connecting, dates, whatever. All of that's the same, but I don't let them enter my body where Mark does. I am not that.
Do you think Mark lets them do that because he did die?
I don't. Maybe so. He's not afraid of dying, and he's not afraid of them. But he is very well trained. He went through many years of training for that. So, I mean, he would be the first to tell you, do not just open yourself up, because that's not the way to go, and things can go quite south there. But yeah, maybe so. I think he was very different after that experience as far as being open in that way. And he does the automatic writing like that, all these things. I don't do automatic writing. And he really wants me to try through the years. And I've been tempted, but I'm like, nope, because that's I got to.
Do you think that automatic writing may be similar to a Ouija board?
Well, sure it is. Yeah. Except you are the board, it's coming through you, and you're writing. I think it's fascinating. I've been with him and, turn the pages as he did it, and all these experiences. Fascinating. It's not for me. Like, I'm an arm's length away. So no thanks. This is not for me.
You said before the show that you're getting ready to go on a sacred site travel.
Yeah.
Where are you planning on going?
I mean, I go, once or twice a year. Different with COVID, that set things in a standstill for everybody. But I'm going to go back for about 3 weeks to a month, and I'm going to go through the UK. I'm going to go through Scotland. I'm going to go through Ireland and revisit some places. And I'd love to have the time, if I can make it this year, to go to Lourdes and just have that full experience, like maybe just a trip there and spend a few days to experience that. But there's a lot of places very much like that. If you go close to the tour in England, there is Chalice Well, and they believe that the chalice that Jesus drank out of was put in that well. And so people have been healed by those waters, and there's a fountain there. And it's really kind of amazing. It's just minutes away from Glastonbury, and the city, the inner city, and it'll be you would go to Glastonbury to go to the well, to Chalice Well. And then
One of
also
the things,
the Sparney is a holy site, and that is, as you go in if you by road is how I did it, but if in between England going to Scotland, so there's just a lot of things. Of course, Hogmanay, you do the torch, and at the New Year, and go a couple of miles through the town up through all these places, and that's kind of a great little pilgrimage. I love that. So there's just a lot of great places. And in Ireland, when you go to the tombs there, you can go down it's in Dublin, just in the city. You can go down to the tombs there, see right there. I mean, there's no blockage. You don't touch them, but you could reach right in and touch all these people that have been there for hundreds of years.
they have catacombs there. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can go down into one of them underneath the church, and there in Dublin, and interact there. It's very interesting and beautiful. If you can, I see the beauty in all of that. I have a huge memento mori collection that I've traveled with, and that has helped people kind of make a little bit of peace with something they thought was a big turnoff, like, oh, gross, people's hair, oh, gross, people's, teeth or bones or whatever. And then turn that around to like, oh, I never thought about that as something to where through history, that was the last piece of a person. They didn't have the photographs. They didn't have the money to have it painted. It was the last little bit of a lock of hair is the most, thing that people still keep. They still keep it. They don't think about it the same way. They're like, oh, of course I kept a lock of hair of this, that. Well, that's what they were doing 100, 200 years ago. It's the same thing. They just made them into beautiful works of art and braiding, and made that into rings, or else they're under glass as a brooch, or the artwork on the wall. There's just a thousand things they could be. And people have really come to understand it in a different way. And also, especially during the times of COVID, it made a little peace for them with how things were in the past, because again, we were in a situation we haven't been in a long time, because we sanitized death through these last decades. People don't generally die at home. They die in a hospital. We never are with them in that experience. And we also are not hands-on so much with that, where there was a time when you bathed the body, you dressed the body, you laid it out in a wake in the home, and people got together, and we do wakes now, but we don't have the body in the room usually, unless you're at the funeral home or something. Now more of that is changing, and people are doing more home deaths, different things, and you interact a little differently with that, and people are less and less afraid of cemeteries. That used to be really the first parks, if you will. People would take their picnics, kids of all ages, babies. Hey, let's go, we're going to clean the graves and celebrate, the grandparents or something, or whoever it was.
Yep,
and people would eat there and celebrate there, because you never stopped loving or being connected to the person that died in the home, that you prepped in the home, that then you buried there, and then now you tend the graves. It was never so separate. And then we had such a time of it being separate. And then, of course, now it's coming back more to where people are like, I don't want it to be so sanitized to where I never got to hear their last words, maybe, or just that they had to die alone in maybe a nursing home or a hospital or something. They're wanting to be, even if they have to be in the hospital or the nursing home, let's say, they're wanting to be, really make sure they're part of the bedside interactions and different things like that. And
We did that with Ron's dad.
you have these natural burials now. There's so many different ways you can be buried. So that's kind of a great thing, I think. It's just the more you're not afraid of death, and you're not going to be so afraid of these interactions, or so afraid of something or someone trying to get in touch with you, so to speak. You'll realize, oh, like you were saying, can I contact my mom? I really would like that advice. Of course so. And so it just makes it more relatable. I really think. I think people are really opening up to it in a time, as you had said early on in the show. A bit ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation because they would be at our doors with torches for you and me. So,
Just a good day. That'd be just a good day.
Just a good day
back then.
Sure.
But one of the things you said was about the layers of history. One of the things that made me think of was, how people will say that a land is cursed.
Yeah.
And there's places that you're actually going that may fall into that category where people say, I remember when the PLO was all that fighting between the Catholics and the Protestants in Ireland, that there was so much bloodshed over religion.
Oh, very much so.
I don't know if people even think about that now, and it wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't that long ago, but I mean, even in war, they talk about how conquering somebody, within a couple of generations, it'll be forgotten. And that's really true. Unless you keep that in the forefront, whatever it is, people move on. There's so much other distraction these days because things we maybe were more in a storytelling, passing down knowledge time. That still happens, but we move at such a quick speed. It's wonderful because you can find out so many things about a place. I think it's wonderful. I love technology, but I think there's a balance. I think if you can keep that balance of keeping the old ways and mix with the new ways, you're going to have a real great balance of the world life as it was, is, and will be. And we never want to kind of lose that space togetherness, but religion, oh my gosh, there's never been bloodier wars fought, right? And the priest holes that even were through, they put priest holes in Scotland and England, Ireland, and that was because of these, some of these battles. They would outlaw that religion, and if you were in the space there, you would have priests would hide in little cupboards or false walls behind something, and little places they could just be creeped in, and they might have to stay there for 2 or 3 days because they were hunted, and they really were actively hunted, and people would wait and watch and let people get comfortable and think, okay, they could come out, and then they would run in and seize them, and it was a lot. So I think when you get that much charged energy and all that bloodshed and all the emotion into one spot, yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to visit and revisit places and see if, hey, I'll have a little more time now, so that's why I say revisit, and take some equipment with me, and just just have a little bit more time to experience it.
I can't wait to hear about it, honestly, because when I think about the layers, how many years did this stuff happen at this castle?
Oh,
is it truly cursed? Is there a way to turn that around? Or is it not cursed and it's just had bad luck?
I think what you're saying could all be true. I think that some things are cursed, and you got to think about the witch trials and the hunts and all the innocent people that were slaughtered, hung, stoned, you name it. That energy, sometimes they did curse a place, or for other reasons. People, just all different walks of life, not just people accused of witchcraft, criminals, anybody, if they were accused of something, many times they would curse a place, specifically say, I'm cursing this spot, and whatever. And then, things, whether that was true or whether the people at the time believed it, and then those kind of things were like, oh, they are, and it kind of manifested, and they attributed certain accidents or certain things to that. That can be true. It could really have been cursed. And I think that you can also find some common ground and do enough kind of groundwork, prayer work, and energy work to, at very least, lessen the aggressiveness or the hostile energy in a spot and kind of dissipate that out. And sometimes if it's intellectual hauntings, you really have to get into who it was, try to find out and get in contact with what spirit it is that's haunting that, or being aggressive to people who come there, and why. And then, look at it from their perspective. Do they feel invaded? Do they feel that they are, protecting a place? Is it coming across as aggressive and violent, but they're just really trying to defend themselves, and they think they're being invaded again, or they're going to be caught again, or they're going to be mistreated again? And either way, kind of let the history help you with that spot, do the work, and I think it can be done. I do think it can be done. And then I do think that even if you lessen it, if a place is just charged, and they really are, I really do believe some places are just that. I think that whether you lessen it for a time, I've never seen it be to where it went away, like totally, like the place was like all of a sudden sunshines and rainbows and butterflies. I've never seen a place that I would call the opposite of sacred, a Dracoss. I've never seen that turn sacred. And I also haven't seen the sacred turn bad. So I don't know.
I mean, Gettysburg is probably one of the few places where I think, from what I've seen over the years, it's sacred and it's bad.
Yeah.
And the opposite.
Both things going on there. And still to this day, people see troops, they see them, they think they're reenactors because they're so formed and real and look like they're living. And then they find them, they disappear, or they had interactions, good and bad, with them, So yeah, that's a very complex space, but it was a complex war.
Yeah, it was. So I would like to find out, where can everybody find you?
Well, you can find me if you go to if you go on Facebook and look up Teal Gray, Tealgray, you can find me there. And I'm revamping my sites, but if you go to tealgraybooks.com, you'll find me there. And in all my books, if you go to Amazon, that's an easy way to find me. Look up Teal, period, middle name, L, Lisa. So Teal L Gray, Gray, and type in, say, Haunted Hill House, something like that. That'll bring up, or Shades of Angels, Teal Gray, Shades of Angels, Teal Gray, Haunted Hill House, any of those books. And it'll bring you up to the whole list and bring a way for you to follow me there. And then I'll be updating all my stuff. It's just time to redo all the sites and LinkedIn, everything. So everything's getting redone, but you'll be able to find me and keep up.
Well, thank you so much. I wish you safe travels.
Thank you so
And
much.
interesting travels.
Yeah.
Book-worthy kind of stuff.
There we go. There we go.
That way, and if you decide you want to do something, let me know. And anytime you want to come back on, just reach out and we'll get you on and we'll talk about it and get it out there. So
good. Love to.
Tomorrow night, guys, join us right here. Join us right here on the Bill of Rights Network for Paranormal Nation Radio, Not So Normal, with Carl, myself, and Ron. We are going to be talking about, and this is going to be news to Carl, we're going to be talking about Blame It on Bigfoot. I got some stories. It's not going to be just Bigfoot, but it's just be prepared to laugh. So make sure that you guys come with a sense of humor tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Central right here. And join me next Monday night for Haunted Souls Paranormal out of St. Louis. They're going to be on. And they're going to be talking about what's coming up in Paragould, as well as some other locations that they're going. So it's going to be fun. So join us here every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central for the Paranormal Pride. And everybody have a great night and have a great week. Good night.
Bye, everybody.